Hi, this is Laura from PS Cover Design, and today we're doing a video on how to format a manuscript for an ebook file. So for the purpose of this video, we'll be using the manuscript Fireburn by author Wendy Knight, who has graciously allowed me to use her pre-edited document for this video. The first thing I do when I get a new manuscript is I create a second copy of it. I save it separately so that if I have to go back to the original, it will still be there. The second thing I do is change the page size. So when you do that, you're going to select all, and then you're going to go into page layout, change the margins to 1/2 inch all around, which is the narrow setting. And then hit the size. We're going to go into the custom sizes, more paper sizes, and change the width to 6 and the height to 9. Okay, that should pull up a 2-page view for you. Alright, when you're converting into a digital book, you got to get rid of any headers and footers that show up in the manuscript you're working with. Those do not convert correctly in an ebook. So I'm going to delete my header and my footer. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is turn on the symbols so I can see where there are errors in spacing and different things like that. Now, at first it can look kind of confusing, but I get so used to seeing it this way that it looks kind of weird when I don't have it on anyway. So you'll probably get used to it. Alright, the next thing I do is I fix my style sheet up here. And the one that I use the most, because the majority of the text in the manuscript is in this style, is normal. So I set normal first just to be sure that it is all correct. A lot of the other styles are based on normal, so you want to make sure that it's right first. Okay, so you right click on the style and click modify. And for this one, we're going to change the font to Palatino Linotype. That's what I usually use. If you have something else that you prefer, that's fine. And 12-point font. I want this to be full justified, single spaced. Then I go down to the format menu and hit paragraph. And from there, since this is normal, I do want a first line indent, and it is usually defaulted to 1/2 inch, and that's what you want. Okay, you can double check, make sure your line spacing is single and that there are no spaces before or after your paragraph. And then you're going to click on the line and page breaks and turn off the widow and orphan control. Right, now our normal is set, so any of the other styles that were based on normal will automatically adjust, which is why you want that one set first. And notice that my normal, for some reason, is showing up at the very end of my style sheet. Usually you'll see it within the first 3 or 4 styles in your gallery. But in this case, it's on my second page, and that means there are a lot of styles here that are in my way, and it'll be a pain to have to click back and forth every time I need to use that. So what I'm going to do is go through my style gallery and remove anything that I am not going to use, and then modify anything that I am going to use. So I do use the no spacing style, so I'm going to right click there and modify it. Okay, this one I do want full justified and single space, 12-point, and the same font as everything else. But for this one, the only difference between it and normal is that I do not want a first line indent, so I'm going to change my indentation to none. Okay, I do use heading 1 for my chapter headings, so I'm going to modify that one. I like to use Felix titling. It's nice and clean. Turn off the bold. Now you'll see that it says the style is based on normal. Okay, we do want this to be centered though, so we're going to change that to center, and we have to turn off the indentation in the paragraph menu. Otherwise it will be set over too far from center. Okay, I like to set mine with the setting of 12 point before and 3 point after the paragraph. It just sets it out nicely. It looks good that way. Alright, I do not use heading 2, so I just remove that from Style Gallery. Okay, so you right click on the style. I don't use title, remove, subtitle remove, subtle emphasis, remove, emphasis, remove, intense, emphasis, remove, strong, quote, intense quote. I do use subtle reference, so this one I'm going to modify just to make sure it fits everything else. You'll have to change this one usually to the automatic black color. It should be 12 point font, and you should set it the same as what you've chosen for your normal. So in our case, Palatino Linotype. By default, and it's good, so you leave it. Okay, we're going to remove intense reference, book title, and list paragraph. Okay, that leaves us with 4 things in the style sheet, but there are 3 more that we need. So we are going to use this arrow to pull open the styles menu, and we'll go down to the bottom where it says new style. And the first we're going to create is center. Now you'll see that it is style based on normal, so there's a couple adjustments that you have to make. We're going to turn off the bold and change it to center. But we do have to go into the paragraph and make sure that there is no indentation. Okay, I'm just going to double check center now because it said there was no indentation. Oh, that one's still good. Okay, sometimes you have to double check yourself. Alright, now if I go back up to my center, as long as this is highlighted, the next thing that you add in the new styles will be based on that. So I'm going to hit new style, and I want this to be a style based on center. So I'm going to change the name to center bold. Click my bold. That one's set. Go back to center again. Add a new style. This one is center italic. So I'm going to italicize. Hit OK. Alright, those are the 7 styles that I usually keep in my style gallery because those are the only ones that I need. And if you're formatting for Smashwords, they're very particular about how you code things. But the nice thing about that is it converts more easily. As long as you do it to the way that Smashwords asks, it'll convert the other types as well. Alright, I do like to make sure that my chapters are capitalized. So I will highlight and change them to uppercase. Even though when I click on the heading 1, Felix titling makes everything look capitalized already. But when it converts, it doesn't keep Felix titling. It changes to whatever the main font is in the conversion process. So it looks much nicer and stands out better in the formatting if you have capitalized your chapter headings. Okay, one good thing to double check at this point is that all the chapters are in the correct order. Okay, a lot of times when a person is writing, an author is writing, they'll forget what chapter they're on, and they'll name the same, or they'll name 2 different chapters the same number, or they'll skip one here and there. It happens. So as a formatter, that's part of your job, is to make sure that all the numbers are there and that they are in the correct order. So I just use my find and type in the word chapter, and then I can do a quick once over, and I can see that chapter 27 is missing. And so when I get to that point, then I'll make sure that I renumber these 27, 28, 29. Okay, you can also see which ones have been capitalized and which ones haven't. So it's a pretty handy tool. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do the first couple chapters, and then in the next portion of the video we'll move on to scene breaks and stuff like that. Alright, now what I typically do is I like the first paragraph in a chapter and the first paragraph after a scene break to be out to the margin. Okay, it just makes it look professional and clean. So I use my no space style for that. So you highlight the paragraph, or you put your cursor by the paragraph or in the paragraph, anywhere, it doesn't matter, and you hit the no spacing, and that will bring it out to the margin. Okay, for the first part of the chapter, that first paragraph, I will usually take 6 words at the beginning of the chapter and change them to subtle reference. Okay, and again, that's just sort of a professional preference. So when I am formatting, I will put in my book at the beginning of a scene break, or when the first paragraph of a scene break, I usually do 4 words. And again, you can just find what works best for you. Alright, and as I'm going down, I'm looking for anything out of the ordinary. Sometimes you will have a space at the end of a paragraph, like so. Okay, now while those are usually not really any big deal, in a printed version it won't even show up. In a conversion it could cause problems. So usually what I'll do, in order to do those all at once and not risk missing any, I'll use my replace feature. And I'll type in a space and then the little up arrow and a P in my find what, and in the replace with I just put the up arrow and the P, and then I hit replace. Now it says that they found 55 to replace here. I'm going to keep hitting that replace all until that number comes back as 0, just to make sure. Sometimes they've got multiple spaces at the end of a paragraph, and this just cleans that up. Okay, and that actually could go on all day. So what I'm going to do is change my find what to 2 spaces and replace with 1 space, and then I'm going to replace that as many times as it takes to get down to 0, which will take a lot less time. Okay, go back to my paragraph. Try that one. Alright, the other one that will sometimes show up is a space at the beginning of a paragraph. For some reason, the typist puts a space there. So with that one, you take the space out of the beginning and put it at the end in your find what, and then hit replace. And she does not have any of those, so that's going to come back 0. Alright, and while I'm still in my find and replace menu, I will also check for ellipses that were typed in incorrectly. And that is, they just put in 3 periods and it didn't automatically change to an ellipsis. It reads as 3 separate things instead of 1. So I'm going to type in 3 periods in my find what. In my replace with, I'm going to do the up arrow and an I, which will put in official ellipsis. And she doesn't have any of those. Alright, the other thing that sometimes happens is that they will use the tab instead of the indent. And usually you'll be able to see that right away because they've used it throughout the manuscript. But since we have set the paragraphs to indent automatically, we can remove those tabs and not create any problems. So to remove the tab, you use in the find what, the up arrow and a T. And then in your replace with, you just want nothing in there at all, no spaces or anything. And that will just delete the tabs. And she doesn't have any tabs in there, so it came back as 0. Okay. Alright, the next step that you need to know is at the end of the chapter there has to be a section break. Now I will use page breaks in some parts of the formatting, but not in between my chapters. So I delete the page break here, and instead I'm going to insert a section break and then new page. So there is a tool up at the top And this is not default in Word, so sometimes you have to go into the customizing, the toolbar, and hit add more commands. Okay, when you get into the add more commands, okay, you just scroll down until you find insert page and section breaks, and then you add that over to that side and hit OK. Since mine is already here, I'm just going to click this and then section break next page, and it will put this little line here that says section break next page. Okay, it's important that there is a paragraph break here before the section break next page. Otherwise, in a full justified manuscript, this line will be spread out across the whole paper, and the paragraph just tells it to cut off and leave those spaced correctly. Okay, your chapter 2 heading, again, you're going to hit the heading 1, highlight, make sure it's capitalized. We've got your first paragraph here, so we want no spacing. Highlight 6 of the words, subtle reference, and then we are looking for any place there might be a section break, or a scene break, or the next chapter. So here we've got page break. So again, we're going to add in our next page section break. Okay, that moves this down to chapter 3, heading 1, highlight, uppercase, no spacing, first 6 words, subtle reference. Okay, and there are about 29 chapters in this, so I'm going to do that all the way to the end. Sometimes they hide, like this one, under the margin, so you got to be on the lookout for those. Insert next page. Oops. Alright, now since this is a pre-edited version, I'm not sure if she wants a scene break here or if it's just an inadvertent space. But if it were a scene break, usually they will have some sort of symbols in here to show that there's a scene break. Okay, and if that's the case, what you want in a scene break is you want one line above and one line below. And then the scene break itself is going to be centered. So you're going to use your center style for that one. Okay, and then if it is indeed a scene break here, this one I'm going to hit no spacing, and I'm only highlighting 4 words for the subtle reference. And again, that's just one of my my preferences to have those there, and so you might choose not to. You can see she's got a couple extra paragraph enters here. Those can be deleted. You don't want any extra spaces in there. It can mess up the conversion